Hello, everybody. It's the old bear from the Old Bear's Den of Bigfoot. We're up here at Salt Fork here in Ohio. Nothing went on last night that we knew of. We were pretty tired when we got here yesterday morning. Not much sleep, but we had a lady we had to go help out yesterday. Uh, Not Bigfoot. Some other things were going on, and just want you to not worry about it. We got it taken care of, and the squirrel over here is making noise.
Hey everybody.
But yeah, we're here to do my first investigation. I know everybody's been asking about what I did on investigations and where I was at and how I got it done, and it's just one of those things. You got to do what you got to do when you got to do it. Hold on a second. Huh? Well, if it was a deer, I don't know. I don't know if you heard that, but that sounded like something walking off. Could be a deer. I don't think it's a Bigfoot, but you know. Anyway, um, my wife is going to do the questions again, and we're going to let her start off with whatever questions comes to mind. Hope you enjoy it, and it's turn it over to the better half.
Hey everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Mr. Old Bear. So, when was your first investigation?
It was in 1994 or 95. Yeah, it was the spring of 95.
Okay.
It was in the month of May. Turkey season in West Virginia had already left. It ended around the 15th of May. That's when it ended, and about a week later, around the 22nd, I got a phone call from a couple that lived up in the Parkersburg, kind of between Parkersburg and I 79 Clarksburg area. And they called me and wanted me to come out.
Is that like, what is that, Interstate 50
It's US
or
50.
US 50
Mm-hmm.
going through there?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of wooded area.
Yeah,
Very pretty land,
it's
pretty
about six
country.
miles past Mount Wood Lake on 50 East.
Beautiful country out there. Beautiful country.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what were they experiencing?
Well, that was the funny part. They hadn't experienced a whole lot when they called me. The husband worked as a security guard, and um, it was at a shutdown mine uh, that is out there. And they called me and wanted me to come out because the wife had been hearing grunts. Something had been getting in their trash cans. And that was about all that they had experienced up to the day before I came.
Okay, so they didn't think it could have been a bear or anything
Well,
like
that
that?
was the thing. They couldn't find any claw marks or anything like that on the trash cans.
Hmm.
And the lids were pulled off. The trash cans weren't turned over, and the bags didn't have like puncture marks in them, like a bear would grab it by its teeth and drag
Claws.
it off.
Okay, okay. So you went. to take a look, and what'd you find out?
Well, maybe we should tell about what happened the day before I got there.
Okay, let's hear that.
Um, what happened was the wife was home, husband had to work, and they had come up with a plan of if she heard anything out there at the trash cans, that she was to take her husband's shotgun out there and shoot at it, whatever it was, whether it was a bear or deer or whatever was, or coons or whatever was getting in the trash cans. Not a real smart idea, but it was an idea. So what happened was she heard something in the trash cans, and when she heard something in the trash cans, she went out the door, the back door, and this thing took off running as soon as she got out there,
Mm-hmm.
stomping its feet, running up the hillside. And she told her husband in no uncertain terms, she called him on the phone and said in no uncertain terms for her to get his backside to the house, that some big hairy guy was running across their yard to get it, that was what was getting in her trash cans.
Wow. Did she have a gun with her when she went
Yeah,
out?
but she didn't shoot.
Okay.
I didn't expect her to, or I don't think he expected her to shoot or anything to scare it off. I think
Mm-hmm.
she was just um, using, getting her to take the gun out with her, because if she did have to shoot somebody or something or whatever, she had some kind of protection. I think that was more what he was
Like a
thinking.
security
Like,
blanket,
yeah, well,
kinda.
it was a security gun, 12
mhm.
gauge, loaded up with number twos. That would
Mhm.
definitely put a hurting on any human that was out there messing around.
I definitely would. Yes. Yes, it would. So, did he come home?
Oh yeah, he came home. She threatened him with never cooking again and other things. That's what I understood,
Wow.
and it scared her pretty good.
I bet it was. Did she tell you how big it was or what color? Stuff like that?
She didn't take time to look at it that closely. When
I,
she saw it run across the yard underneath the light,
mhm.
it hit the woodside. She said it took 3 steps and was clear across the yard. And when it ran up the hillside, it made enough noise for 20 people to run up through there.
Whoa, that must have been a
So
big boy.
that was it.
Hmm. Okay. So that happened the day before you went up?
Yeah, because they had
Okay.
called me the last day of turkey season, and I told them, I said, I work.
Mhm.
And so it'd be next weekend. And I got up there on Saturday
Mhm.
morning about 6 o'clock,
Okay.
and they had been up all night. Because when he got home, evidently he found a footprint in
The
the yard.
husband.
Yeah, because he went out there
Okay.
next to the cans and had soaked the ground to get a footprint of whatever it was, so he'd know what it was. Well, when he went
Wow.
out there that night after he got home, as a security guard, he carried a big, big flashlight that has a long, strong beam.
Mhm.
Well, he found a footprint in the dirt that was around the trash cans that, and he showed me when I got there. It was, and I measured it. It was 20 inches long,
Whoa.
almost 9 inches across the foot, the front of the foot. The
Big.
heel was 4.5, almost 4.5 to 5 inches wide, like 4 3/4 inches wide at the heel.
That's
So that's a
big.
pretty big creature,
That's a pretty
pretty
big
big and heavy.
foot.
And it was into
Definitely.
the ground. The indention in the ground was an inch and a half deep.
Heavy. Big and heavy. Mm. Okay. So, did you take any pictures? Did you cast it or anything like that?
Well, when I got there, I didn't. I did bring some casting material and I casted the print and I dug the print out later that day after it had dried because it was a fairly, it was a spring day and it was warm.
Mhm.
It was in the middle to upper 60s
Mhm.
that day, and it was actually a very pretty day like today. As you see, it was a lot of
Yeah.
sun, but it wasn't real hot.
Mhm. Okay.
And I casted the print when I got there that morning, first thing, and then we followed. He went with me, and we followed the path that went up the hillside that this thing took. It was pretty easy to follow that path because it had busted every bit of brush down. You could see where it knocked over little trees and uh,
Mm.
broke limbs off and everything running up the hill.
Mm.
It was kind of funny to watch, to see all that destruction that it caused. She scared it, I think, more than she was scared of it.
Sounds like it. If she had that gun, and maybe it knew what it was.
But when he got home, the thing that he told me when he got home that night, that he could hear it walking around up there, and he had taken his 12 gauge out and shot at it, and it screamed at him, and he could hear it run off
The
further
night
into the
before you
woods.
came over?
That
Is it?
night, right before I got there.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah,
Okay, well, that makes for a good setting, doesn't it?
yeah.
So,
Um,
what happened next? Excuse
well,
me.
the the next thing was, you know, I took a few Polaroid pictures. That's all I had back then was a Polaroid camera. I never got into the thing where I need a top of line camera, I need a top of line this, infrared, and all that stuff. And, back then we didn't have all of that stuff.
Right.
And I was working, supporting my family, my wife and my son, uh, or not my son because he wasn't born yet. Uh, Still had a few more months to wait on him coming into this world, and we had a lot of uh, a lot of bills associated with having a child that I had to pay, and so I was working two jobs at the time, and I'd got up there on Saturday and had the day off from both jobs on Saturday and had Sunday off because I worked Monday through Friday on
Mm-hmm.
both of them. And when I got up there, I took some Polaroid pictures. The one-step Polaroid cameras that they had.
Mm-hmm.
That's high tech.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a young guy. I'm not real high tech. I'm not into high tech stuff. Still ain't. Uh, High tech stuff can screw up, and it just and then everybody's like they blame the reason that their equipment failed on Bigfoot when it's not. It's something that's wrong with the equipment. Um, but anyway, we followed that trail up through there and got up there to where we ran into some tree bows. And tree bows are, where they take a small tree and bend it over.
Mm-hmm.
So evidently this thing had set up shop there
Mm-hmm.
and was
Wow.
living back there on that hillside. They never knew it when they bought the house and moved in 10 years before that. And let's see, after we found the tree bows, we found an axe. Um, if you see the big tree right over here, just off my right ear, um, that's how big of trees they were. Um, you know, 20, 25, 30 foot tall trees. They were broken off at the base. Roots were broken off and they were placed in an X. And, well, we found that. We went on around it and found some tree breaks and stuff what they were like they normally find, trees that were twisted, taken between two hands and twisted and broken down.
That takes a lot of strength.
More than I got, especially for a 3 or 4 inch thick tree. So I figured out that the best course of action at this point was to try something that a buddy of mine had showed me how to do, and he had illustrated how to use them and how to set them up to me. Now he's ex-military. Um, he came up with the idea, he perfected it, and he gave it to me to use. He had been on investigations with me, and he had heard him scream and all this other stuff, and just when I'd go out in the woods and listen for him and try to find him, which wasn't going too good. And at that point, I went up there and put out 6 flashbangs on in the area where the trails came down. There were 6 different trails that you could see that a Bigfoot had crossed because they were 3 foot wide and 7 feet tall, and there wasn't no limbs or none of that stuff. Just where they
Dangling.
walked. Yeah, there wasn't anything in their way to get through there easily. So I put out the flashbangs.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, then what did you do? Just sit back and wait?
No, no,
No?
not at this point.
Okay.
I went looking around the other side of the hill that went up behind their house, and they lived where their property sat. This would be their yard, and their house was sitting here. Well, they had a small yard to the right of their house, and then it gradually went up a hill. Well, they had a big, nice yard out behind the house, like in
Mm-hmm.
this area,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a holler off that hill that it went up beside their house. It wrapped around and then cut back that way towards. We got a visitor, chipmunk. Shut up, chipmunk. We're busy. Um, that holler went around through there, and I went out there and come down off the hill and could see where it had been traveling through there, and ran across a couple of deer skulls.
Nice. Nice.
One still had the eyes in
Mm, relatively fresh.
it, and the skulls were cracked open on both of them.
Hmm.
So you know what it was eating out of the skulls, right?
Brain.
Yeah. Making very good use of what they got. So after that, I put some flashbangs out up there. I put 6 of them out up there because I only had 12 with me, 12 cans, and then I had enough black powder to put in them. Set them up, and about 3 o'clock, I told them, I said, "Won't you guys take off and go do something this evening, and I'll
Mm,
stick around here." And they trusted me enough. Back then people had trust in other people.
right.
Um,
Right.
so they let me stay there at their house. I sat there and watched TV for probably, well, Saturday. I was watching football probably, and about 6:30, I heard noise out there at the trash cans. It was trying to get in the trash cans again. Well, I had wired the trash can lids closed.
So you would know when they were there and so they
Yeah, they would
couldn't
have
get
to
in
move
there.
the cans to try to get the lids off. Well, I went out the door, uh, and at this time I didn't carry a big handgun. I just had a shotgun uh, that I had, and went out the door. And this thing seen me coming. When I opened the door, it saw me, and it took off. Ran the same path that it run the evening before, up the hill, and it ran right smack dab into one of those flashbangs. It screamed, and I could hear it go to the left, and it ran into another one. This time it was mad, blinded, I would say, because by this time of the day it was starting to get dark, and that bright white light that comes from black powder when it goes off, and that stink definitely
Mm-hmm.
sent it into a little tizzy. So it went on around to the left and went down into that holler, and I guess when it got in that holler, it hit the third one, and it came around the the flat ground behind her house through the woods, and I could see it running through the woods. It's, it wasn't a real big one. It was probably 7 feet, and it wasn't real happy. It was pushing over anything and everything that got near it. Uh, it was grabbing little trees and breaking them off and pushing little trees over, and just pretty much trying to throw a temper tantrum.
It sounds like it was trying to do that for sure.
And at that point, it was going to probably get mad enough that it was going to come back to the house.
Mm. Okay.
So at this point, I know it's done hit three of the flashbangs, and I know it's going to come back because they just when they get mad, they lose all sense of self preservation, I guess, and they
And just
tend
go
to come
and
back.
have a hissy fit.
Hmm.
Was it? Did you find any blood from where it hit the flashbangs?
No, no, no.
Okay.
Uh, they weren't meant to destroy the can and turn it into shrapnel. They were just made to where the powder would go off and it would throw a white light,
Big boom.
a big boom, big noise,
Gotcha.
and that putrid smoke. If anybody's ever used a muzzleloader, you know what I'm talking about. And throw that light off, and to blind and scare. That's what it was for, and that's what I used them for.
Oh, okay.
You lose something?
I lost a pair of glasses. I had two pairs of glasses on my head. One so I could see and one to keep the sun out of my eyes. So,
Uh,
anyways.
anyway,
Okay.
what's next?
So, what is next is. Okay, so this was at nighttime, right?
Yeah, it was
In the
dark by this
okay,
time. It was
okay.
around 7 o'clock.
So, did you go back to their house? Did they come
I
back?
stayed there at the back door of the house and reached in and flipped the lights on because I didn't want to be in the dark with this thing.
Mhm.
That's not the smartest thing to do, is be
No.
in the dark.
Mhm. Okay. So, how'd that evening go?
Well, it went about as expected. It came back and it wasn't none too happy. It was missing a few places of hair on its legs, so evidently it had caught on fire a little bit.
Oh,
And
ouch.
it wasn't very happy. And it saw me sitting there on the back porch, and it kind of showed its strength, and it demonstrated a little bit and pounded its chest a couple of times, and finally it came into the backyard. And when it came in the backyard, um, I flipped the floodlights on the back of the house that
Mm-hmm.
he'd installed. Uh,
Okay.
they'd had other critters coming in the yard, and it scared his wife. She was a city girl, and she was not too familiar with country life.
Like possums and raccoons and.
Yeah, she thought everything was going to eat her,
Hmm.
and it threw its arm up to shield its eyes, like we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I took the shotgun and stuck it over to my left. There was no homes down in that direction. There was to the right of the property, just
Mm-hmm.
you know, just around because it was a hillside that kind of stopped, and there's a flat spot, and then just around the corner was another house that they had
Mm-hmm.
dug the hill out and put in there. And but nobody lived in that house. They hadn't lived in the house for about 10 years.
Whoa, really?
So, kind of wondered what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, the fun part was when I rocked the shell in that shotgun, it stopped. And when I squeezed the trigger, it thought it might be better to leave. I didn't shoot at it. I done it to scare it and to let it know that people were not going to put up with it
Mm-hmm.
coming down there and getting in their house, getting into the trash.
Trash. Yeah.
And oh, it ran off, and you could hear it scream a couple of times back up in that area, because you go back in there, and then there's a couple of hillsides. It's West Virginia, and there are hills
Absolutely.
everywhere.
Beautiful country.
And they it had had enough. It never. I had talked to that couple a couple of times after that, about a month later, and then after about 6 months is when I called them the second time and talked to them, and they'd never had any more trouble. So
That's good.
that got that Bigfoot out there. Uh, but the funny thing is how they got a hold of me was kind of a funny situation. Uh, Remember that neighbor that I told you was around the corner from them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that neighbor knew the mentor that I had because he didn't
Oh,
live very far from there.
really?
He'd been friends with him for 30 plus years,
Oh.
and he was the one that told him about me and about my friend, our friend,
Mm-hmm.
and he had my number to my parents' house, and he had called mom and dad and wanted to know if I was there, and they told him no, that I'd moved out and that I was living with my wife and that we were waiting on a baby on the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to mom and dad's, and dad told me that he called, and I contacted him from there at mom and dad's, and that's how that couple got a hold of me, was just by word of mouth. But that word of mouth was from a man that taught me the most you could know about a Bigfoot. He had been chasing them for 30, 40 years at that point.
Wow.
And when I got with him, he had been doing it for about 35 years. And I had been around him for almost 5 years. So when he disappeared up there in eastern Nicholas County, um, but this is 10 years later, after he disappeared that day. And because of him, I did my first full on investigation by myself with a little help from the couple that owned the property. And if it wouldn't have been for that guy knowing about me and knowing what my friend had dealt with for such a long time, and him not, and he had saw a Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
He had been out deer hunting, and he quit hunting because of it.
Daddy.
And he called me um, and talked to me about it and got me to come up there. Um, and then he finally, the day, because that Saturday night, whenever they got home, everything had already been done and over with, and they asked me to stay, and I stayed there at their house in my pickup because I had a pickup at that point, and I slept in it. And the next morning, got up and went up and took the rest of the flashbangs down, um, and got everything picked up. and he came over about 8 o'clock on Sunday morning and told me about his experience with a Bigfoot in the woods when he was out bow hunting. So it's kind of a funny situation. Not funny, haha, but funny that it was just
Ironic.
strange and ironic.
Hmm. So have you heard from them since?
No, no. Um, After I contacted them after 6 months, they just asked me not to. They said if you ever start telling about things that you deal with, just leave our names out of it. We don't care if you use what happened to us. Just kind of leave it in a general area, and I did that. And I wanted to start giving uh, the accounts of what I'd done over my career for time of ticking off Bigfoot and making him leave. So if anybody tells you you can walk up there and talk to them or um, put holy water out, uh, holy water is not for Bigfoot. Holy water is for spirits. Something that is harming a human or affecting a human's life. That's what holy water's for, people. Um, I'm a minister. I know this. The only thing that will deter Bigfoot is physical action against them. Uh, if they're at your house getting in your trash, or because they'll eat, you know, if you had steaks for dinner and you left a little bit of meat on there, they're going to come and eat it, and they'll probably chew on the bone. But anyway, that was what I did, and I figured I'd let you guys know. We got about 13 more of them to do, and I got some reports of an account of Bigfoot here at Salt Fork from this past summer, and two or three more accounts that have came in, and I have to run them by the producer over here. And once I run them through her, she'll decide which one comes next. Uh, so I hope y'all enjoy this. And if you need any information, you want to start investigating, or you want to start trying to intercede when it comes to Bigfoot hurting, harming, or scaring the daylights out of a family, because it always does scare the daylights out of them. Please don't go to them people that claim that they've helped people. And then they've done it by putting holy water out or going up there and telling them in English to leave. It works sometimes on ones that are cooperative, but the ones that aren't, they only understand physical force. Um, it doesn't mean you have to hurt them. It just means that you have to scare the daylights out of them, and they get the message. So we're going to end the video. We hope y'all enjoy it, and we'll see you next time. And if you want anything in particular, call the producer. We'll see you guys.
Bye.